I bought 18,000 books in the last 3 years, and the most important one's the Book of Mormon.
To think that Joseph Smith, like,
it's a good chance he was flipping through the pages,
touched it or something, make sure it's all good. That's really cool.
You just get this like interesting energy from touching things that have such a significant history.
Hope you had a good Thanksgiving, everybody. Today's episode was really awesome. We did it after a live event that we held up in Boise for Jonah Barnes's books, and it was honestly so epic. And if you don't know this, we're doing another live event this Friday in Orem. Tickets are going, so get yours before they run out. We always have sad people that are always like, please, can I come volunteer because I didn't buy my tickets in time. Don't be that person. Please come. And the price of the ticket is just the price of a book, and you're going to leave with the new book, The Doctrines and the Mysteries. So we're also doing a big giveaway. We're giving away 2 free church history tours with Mike Day this next summer. If you want to know more about how to enter that, you can look at the link in the description. There's a video where we describe the whole giveaway. Lastly, I just love this season, don't you? We're getting into Christmas, time to remember Christ, and let's try to make it a real religious holiday this year. Instead of trying to remember the true meaning of Christmas, let's just make the whole thing about Jesus in the first place. So, love you guys, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Welcome, everybody, to another episode on the Stick of Joseph YouTube channel. We really made a budget and got a brand new studio.
We've acquired ClickFunnels, and we're up here at our new headquarters in Boise, Idaho, which is pretty cool.
No,
honestly, way cheaper than I thought it was going to be.
I know.
They're not doing as well.
Not as well as we thought, no, but we're so excited to be up here. We're up in Boise at ClickFunnels with Russell Brunson. Thank you so much for letting us come and be here with you.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been fans of you guys for so long, and it's excited for the event we're doing tonight and everything, and just pumped.
It's gonna be a fun time, man.
Yeah, and we're gonna let Russell introduce himself a little bit. But if you don't know who Russell Brunson is, one of my buddies who is really big into the e-commerce space and online selling. One day, I got added to the Zoom call by one of our team members, and Russell was on it, and I had heard of him before, but we were talking, and he kind of showed interest in doing an event with us, helping with the channel, and then I texted my buddy who I knew was in the e-commerce space. I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? And just sent a screenshot of our Zoom. And he's like, is this AI? I was like, no, dude, you know? He's like, he's literally the GOAT, bro.
He's the GOAT.
So, yeah, Russell, help us understand a little bit more about your background and all that.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Most people know me because of my marketing business. Like when I was growing up in high school and college, I was a wrestler, wrestled at BYU. They dropped the wrestling program, transferred to Boise State, and I wrestled. And when I was here, met my wife, fell in love, and decided to get married, but I didn't have any way to support her. I was wrestling, and she was, she was supporting us. And so I was like, I got to figure out a way to make some money online. So I went to Google and typed in how to make money on the internet, and got down all the rabbit holes of, the things that don't work. Yeah. But eventually, over like a couple of years of trial and error and trying thing after thing after thing, I started making some money. My first thing I ever made money with was, it was the beginning of like what we now call the information age, like people buying information. And this guy was teaching about, you can create a course and sell it on the internet. Before, and that was like a cool thing to do, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I don't really know anything about anything, but last weekend we built a potato gun. Maybe we can make a course on how to make a potato gun. So my buddy and I went with our little camera, went to Home Depot and filmed just like buying the pipes and showing what to do, and then going home and cutting them and gluing them together, and put together a DVD, teach people how to make a potato gun, about howtomakapotato.com.
Shut up.
Put up the page, threw some fits there, turned on some Google ads, and almost overnight started making sales. And I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Like, I am a genius, right? And that was the beginning. That's how it kind of all started. And then obviously the potato gun market is really small. So
it's pretty big in Utah. I feel like that's a really Mormon thing to do. Is
man, Idaho, the potato growing Idaho.
Yeah, it's huge here. But everyone else, so I kind of like, it didn't grow very well, but I was like, I learned how to do it. And I had to learn all these pieces. Like, how do you put up a website? How do you put an order link? How do you write? I don't know what the time was called, but how do you write copy in a way to get someone to want to buy something from you, right? And then how do you run an ad? So I'd done all the things, and the hardest part was the first time, like learning how to do all the things. And then I knew how to do it, so I was like, what else could I sell? And so we started looking like, what are other people searching for? And so then I started creating all these little courses. We partnered with the world's fastest reader and did a speed reading course. So like someone who was a couponer did a couponing course, and like just every person I met, I'm like, you have a superpower. Like we can turn it into a product and sell it. And that's kind of what happened. So my first 10 years while I was in college, I was just doing that. And then people started seeing what I was doing. I was having a lot of success with it. And so we decided one time to do an event. Like, I'll teach you guys, mostly for my friends and my family members.
Yeah.
And then we sold tickets and some people bought it. And I was like, this is insane. So they came and I started teaching what I was doing. And I really liked that. It was fun. And people will pay a lot of money to learn how to start a business. And so the profit margin is really good. And so I started doing events and we were teaching people this process for a long time. And we built a following, but the problem is, like, we teach them the process, but then they'd go back home and they didn't know how to make a website. They weren't technical. I wasn't either, but I would hire people in India or Romania to go build stuff for me. And so they'd understand strategically how to do it, but they didn't know how to actually do it. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the bottleneck forever, is like, I couldn't get a lot of success stories. And then about 12 years ago now, met my business partner, Todd Dickerson. He was working for me at the time, like building funnels for me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we should build software that like replaces me so we can build funnels faster.
Yeah.
And I had tried to build something like that in the past. I wasn't the only person. A lot of people have that idea, but it's not an easy thing to build. And Todd was like, I can go build this. So he went back, he lives in Atlanta. He flew back home to Atlanta and he spent 7 or 8 months. And then one day he's like, log in this and see what you think. I logged in and this ClickFunnels. I'm like, holy cow.
This is awesome.
And so it was the first time in my life I actually built a funnel. Like, I logged in, I could do everything. I need a tech person. I did every single piece of it. And I was just like, this will free all entrepreneurs. Because now, like, understanding the concepts of starting a business is not hard. It's just doing it was hard. Like, how do you hire the people to do it? And like, now you don't need anyone. You can just do it. And so 11 years ago, we launched the company ClickFunnels. Excuse me. I launched the company ClickFunnels. It took a little while for it to take off because people didn't understand what a funnel was. And like, I assumed everyone knew what it was, but they didn't. So like, I wrote my first book called .com Secrets, which explains like the psychology and the strategy
how
of the
funnel. Internet works. Yeah.
And people read the book like, oh, and all of a sudden then they needed a funnel and they needed software, and then they bought ClickFunnels and it took off. And in the last 10 years, we've got hundreds of thousands of customers. We've done over $1 billion in sales ourselves on the platform. Yeah. Our clients done over $12 billion in sales.
That's crazy.
We do events with 5,000 or 6,000 people in them, and we help entrepreneurs. And so that's the world people know me from. Yeah. And then there's the world that I love, which is
what an intricate ploy to be able to spend millions of dollars on rare LDS
I know.
books.
It's what I interviewed someone 4 or 5 years ago, and they're like, you make so much money. What do you do with all that money? And I was like, if I told you wouldn't believe me, you'd probably make fun of me. I was like, I buy books.
Yeah.
What? He's like, most people are buying cabins or houses or cars or planes. I'm like, yeah. These books some of them cost about as much as that. Like, I just buy old books.
Well, Brandon, show the B-roll that you got in the last place. We just barely got back from a building. There are multiple buildings in this place that we're at, and one of them is just filled with books. And so you had tons of Latter-day Saint historical books and things like that. It was insane. Some of the things you brought here that we want to talk to you about.
You guys haven't seen them yet.
We haven't seen a lot of them. So that's kind of what we want to go through here. Is like we want you to show us the fruit of your labors. Honestly, I feel like you feel that way, that having these books and learning this history and the way that these things have an effect on you when you hold them in your hand, that's the fruit of all this hard work that you've done. So let's get into it. What do you got here?
All right, so I got a lot of really cool stuff I'll show you guys, but for me, it actually started on my mission. So my mission was in New Jersey, and there was a lady we were teaching that got baptized, and she would buy old books on old Mormon books on eBay, and then she'd flip them on Deseret Book. Used to have an auction site, and so she'd buy one and then she'd flip it over there, and she made her whole living doing that.
Interesting.
And before she was even a member, she knew about the Mormon Church. She in her prior life, she was an anti-Mormon. She ran a radio show and everything.
Yeah, how crazy.
And then she moved to Jersey and got away from her anti-Mormon friends. And she said, one day I was like, what if all the crazy things the Mormons said were actually true?
Yeah.
And then she started thinking about it, and she's like, huh. And then she called the sister missionaries, and next thing we know, we're over there teaching her and all sorts of stuff. And she was showing me her business, and she was just buying books here and flipping them here. In fact, after she got baptized, she flew to Utah, bought a car, drove to every DI, bought all the books, and then flipped them, and then flew home. Like, made so much money, she was able to buy the car or whatever it was. But that was her whole business. And so we'd go to her house and we'd watch her. She'd show us these books that she would have, and I didn't think much about them at the time. It was kind of cool. And then I remember one day she's like, do you want to see something really cool, Elder Brunson? I'm like, yeah. So she pulls up on eBay, and she's like, first edition Book of Mormon, and it pops up and she shows it. And I can't remember, again, this is 98, 99, so I don't remember what they cost back then, maybe $50,000 or $60,000. And she's like, this would be the dream. If you could ever get a first edition Book of Mormon, that would be, I just remember as a 19-year-old kid, just like, that would be.
How much did they cost
really cool.
at the time?
I think
said 50.
I think 50 or 60,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then. Yeah, the price goes. If you track like old books versus like the stock market, especially old LDS books, they beat the stock market like 20 to 1. Like it's crazy how fast the value goes up on them. So that was kind of a one-time thing, and then I got transferred, and then kind of forgot about books for a long time, and then I started ClickFunnels. It was all growing, and I remember this is probably 7 years ago maybe. I don't remember where I was bored or something's happening. I went on eBay and I was like, I wonder if, so I typed in first edition Book of Mormon, and sure enough one pops up, and I was like, and it wasn't that expensive. It was like, I think it was like $40,000 or $50,000. But I was like, oh, that'd be cool to buy. But then I was like, I want to do some research. So I started doing some research. That's how I got to know like Reed Moon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, you sell them? He's like, yeah. And he gave me like all these ones. And one was like, his cheapest one was like 80,000. There's 150, there's 250. And then you can get like Brigham Young's one for like 5 million. I'm like, whoa. All of a sudden, like the one over here for like 50 was like, seems so cheap. I'm like,
all right, yeah, look at that one.
And I knew for a long time.
$50,000.
Yeah, it seems expensive.
Cheap.
Yeah.
There's marketing for you.
Yeah.
But I was just like, so I sat there for like a week or so. I kept looking at it. I'm like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And then one day I had a really bad day. I can't remember. And so actually, if you go to my Instagram channel, the videos are on there because I was on Snapchat, and I pull up, I'm like, I'm going to buy this thing, and I show it, and I click on the button, and I'm like, oh man, my wife's gonna kill me. And my wife actually saw it. She texted me like 10 minutes later.
What are you doing?
Did you just buy a first edition Book of Mormon? I'm like, oh no. And so that's kind of how it started. And then, and so I don't have that copy here. It's still back the same, but it showed up in the mail. And I remember I got it, and I opened up, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And so that night I got my kids together, and I was like, I want to make this an experience for them. So we got everyone together, and I told them the story about, you know, the Grandin building and how they printed, and we showed pictures of the thing and just showed the whole thing. And I was like, there were 5,000 copies that were printed, and the missionaries went out there. That's how the whole church, everything came from these first 5,000 copies.
5,000.
I'm like, from that, there's only about 350 like known copies that are still here. And my kids were like, oh. I was like, guess what? I was like, I have one of them. Like, what? And so I showed it and took it out, and it was like this cool experience. They got to hold it and smell it, and it was just like, anyway. And I got that feeling of like sharing the stories. People was like addicting for me, and that's what started this whole addiction. And then, and now I can't stop. So that's
let's see what you got, man.
So I'll start with the first edition Book of Mormon. So this is not this is the second one I got, and this one is even better quality. The one I bought. The reason why it was
cheaper is because it was pretty messed
It didn't have the original cover. It had a replica cover, and 4 pages had been replaced. So it wasn't 100% flawless. This one is one that's 100% flawless. Original cover, original title page, all the things. And it is so cool.
Whoa. And so what was it? The original book, is it pigskin that it's made? What sort of leather is it? Weren't some of them made out of a certain type of leather?
Yeah, I think it's Palmyra. I'm going to mess this up, and someone's going to know this in front of me, but I think Palmyra is sheep, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
I could be wrong, though.
Interesting.
So this is the first edition, and you just can hold if you want stuff. Just be careful. The bindings, the thing you kind of be careful of, but
You go first.
Is there any other sort of significant provenance of this, of like the owner of it, or?
So what's cool is every book, back then people didn't have a lot of books. So somebody would have a book, and they would pass them from father to son, father to son. And so usually in the front of it, in most of these books, you see the lineage of who owned it. My other one's got a deeper lineage than this one does, but it's kind of cool to see how much they respected him.
Epic.
It was cool because back then it wasn't chapter and verse. It was, it was written like just one whole thing. Yeah. So after I got my first edition, I remember you guys heard the story about Parley P. Pratt reading the entire Book of Mormon in a day. Mm-hmm. And so I Googled, I was like, when's Parley P. Pratt's birthday? And it was like a week after I got my first edition. So I called my team, I'm like, taking the day off. I'm gonna try to read the entire Book of Mormon in one day like Parley P. Pratt did. So the first edition I bought, I sat down and I got to like the middle of Alma. It took me 18 hours, and then I had to tap out.
Like, I can't do it.
But it was really cool to try to like read it this way, where there's no chapter and verse.
Yeah, it's more narrative.
All one day. It was it's just a really cool experience.
That is cool.
Things popped out I'd never seen before.
It is interesting because the chapter breaks, it's
like this clunky.
Yes, because sometimes you'll, all right, I'm going to read a chapter today. I'm going to study a chapter, and then you pick up somewhere and you feel like it's kind of a continuation of the story, but a whole separate topic. But there is some of them, and we've talked about it on our show, where taking away those chapter breaks and continuing the through line, it really does make things pop out too.
Especially like Nephi's visions in the very beginning. Like once you realize like, the verses and even verse breaks, especially when it comes to the Old Testament. We had a conversation about this with Dave Butler about how, in Hebrew, they don't have, like, it's just continual letters forever. It just keeps going. And so we have even verse breaks in the Bible they mess with the way that we think. We think that ideas begin and end wherever these verse breaks are, but many times they continue, and it really informs the way that we understand certain key scriptures and ideas. So that's what's really cool about these.
You could buy a first edition replica of Deseret Book, but I think it's worth everyone to buy one just so you can read it once without chapter and verse, because it's just a whole different experience.
First time. Okay, cool. So this is the first edition Book of Mormon you got.
Mormon, yes.
That's epic.
There's so many I can show you. So I won't show all these because they'll take a little while, but these are the first 5 editions of the Book of Mormon, which is kind of cool because each one, if you look at, and this is where a lot of antis come back, like, oh, well, they changed something from this version. So I'm always like, well, what did they actually change? Like, let's read them all side by side.
Yeah.
But these are cool because these are the next 5 editions. Make sure I get them in the right order.
And now we have things like the earliest text by Royal Skousen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's phenomenal.
Okay, so these are the next 5. I'll show them really quick. But so this was the first one. This was the second edition, and the second edition they shrunk.
Second edition is kind of cool.
And this one's cool because this one was actually eaten by a bookworm, which is kind of cool. And so
no way.
That's kind of a cool.
Oh my god.
I like the red too, on the spine.
Gosh,
that's awesome. So there's a second edition.
It's beautiful. Dude, I really need to learn Roman numerals, bro. I have no idea if I open that. I'm like, what chapter is that?
I believe this one is the.
I haven't watched the Super Bowl enough.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd edition right here, so it shifted a little bit too, but this one's actually printed. The printing press is by Don Carlos, and so Joseph Smith's brother had the printing press.
Don Carlos. We need to do a full episode on Don Carlos.
Yeah,
bro.
because where did the name come from? That's
if you know in the
crazy.
comments, please put that.
Yeah.
First Nauvoo.
That's awesome.
And then the 4th one is pretty. I'm going on the 5th. The 5th is actually my favorite, so I want to make sure we get to this one. So I'm showing all of them. But the 4th one, this is the first like England copy. So it's.
So the first 5 editions, like how quickly were they putting these out? Like were they selling them enough, or were they going out enough?
That's a good question. It has the years on each one. So it was 1830 is year number 1.
1840s.
Year 2 is 1837. So 7 years later was the second
It's
edition.
insane. So did they have like lockets on it?
Yeah, this one's cool because there's the name on the front is a woman's name, which is rare for women to own books back then, and it had a clasp thing. So I don't know if she put that on separately to be able to have like a clasp to hold it.
When you say back then, what's the 1841?
Yeah, 1841. Yeah, Liverpool.
Cool. So the Liverpool edition is really cool because this is printed in England, and one thing that's cool is there were 12. I think it's 12 or 15 copies that were made for the 12 apostles, First Presidency, and their wives. And we know where Hiram's is, we know where Emma's is. And actually, Emma's copy of the Book of Mormon, if you've been to John Quincy Adams' home, and so it's a really cool story. John Quincy Adams visited Joseph Smith's home. He was traveling, and he stopped at Joseph Smith's home. And so he's the grandson of John Adams, like the original founding father, right? So he stops in, and he and his companion, who I think his name was Josiah Hancock. It's been so long since I've learned all this stuff, right? But they essentially stopped in. They have dinner. They stay at Joseph Smith's Nauvoo house, and they both write in their journals about Joseph Smith. One of them writes, he seems like such a humble, wise, smart man. That's what Josiah Quincy writes. The other guy's like, this guy's a pompous charlatan, like all this stuff. So you get to see like how you can interpret who Joseph Smith was based on that. But he gave them a copy of. He gave John Quincy Adams Emma's Liverpool edition of the Book of Mormon and signed it in there. And so that's actually at John Quincy Adams' house in Boston. It's really cool. And so the question now is, because it does this really interesting thing. Hiram's is accounted for. A lot of the early ones are accounted for, but no one knows where Joseph Smith's is.
Yeah.
So Joseph Smith's personal Liverpool edition that has his name on it is somewhere out
You know
there.
what that'd be worth right now if we were to find it?
It would be the most expensive Book of Mormon.
Okay, this is actually my favorite one. So this was the 5th edition, but this is Joseph Smith actually set up a printing press for this one. So it's the only one that he actually printed.
Okay.
And between the 4th edition and then this one, there were no changes. So they say this is like the author's
So he
copy.
owned
like
the printing press at this point.
And he only printed, I believe, 500 copies. And so
Okay.
there are like 15 or 20 known copies of this one. And so this is my favorite because it's the most
So
rare,
cool.
and it's, only 500 of them were printed. And
To think
cool
that Joseph Smith, like,
it's a good chance he was flipping
he
through the
like
pages,
touched
making
it or
sure
something, make sure it's all good. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Gosh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know the spines.
that one.
So cool.
Dude, you just get this like interesting energy from touching things that have such a significant history. And like when we went over to Jerusalem, we met one of the guys that's one of like the most well-known antiquities dealers in Jerusalem. And he may or may not have been excavating underneath, a shop in the old city and has found some crazy stuff. And he let us go back there. And we went to this part that hadn't been dug out yet. And I just turned on my flashlight and I started digging like a dog. And I just peel up this pottery shard and like I just hold it in my hands and like this is like soil that hasn't been disturbed in like 2,000 years. And just like you feel like this is maybe like woo woo, but like I feel like a connection with the people that like held this, and I wonder how it broke, like what was happening. Like it's just crazy. So being around all this old stuff that has such a significance in history is
so cool.
It's cool.
It's bone chilling. It's amazing.
So cool. So those are the Book of Mormons. Those are obviously the coolest. The City
Yeah.
Joseph right there for you.
Right there.
Okay, a couple of cool ones. This one is a first edition Pearl Great Price. And Pearl Great Price wasn't published as a book originally. It was like a pamphlet. And most of the times if you find a first edition, they're like included inside of a book. So they're really hard to find. In fact, this took me until just this last year to find a copy of this actually for sale. So this is the original Pearl Great Price. All of its original
Oh, so it is just a little tiny pamphlet.
wrappers and stuff.
And so how do you go about like procuring stuff like that? Do you just have like a network of other collectors?
Yeah, it's kind of like when you start buying, the seller starts showing up. And so, yeah, there's
Like
a
Mark
hand.
Hoffman and stuff like that?
I actually bid on a Mark Hoffman signed document the other day because I was like, I
really?
have one. That'd be so
That's
cool to
right.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Salamander letter.
Prophecy of Enoch. Wow. So this pamphlet, is this like exactly what we have in the Pearl of Great Price today?
it's a great question. I'm not sure what's been updated or changed. 1851, but this is one that I'm sure Jonah's gonna be talking about with the Gems of Genesis, right? This is where
Lost Gems of Genesis.
it came from. This was
Enoch
the version they
continues
compiled.
speech.
Yeah, let me see. So revealed to Joseph Smith December 1830, which is crazy because Book of Mormon's published in March of 1830. Is that right? I
think so.
So yeah, March of 1830. And Joseph Smith, like this is the thing that's wild about the Pearl of Great Price and the Lost Gems of Genesis. Jonah talks about this. He didn't have a Bible in front of him when he got the revelation for the Book of Moses. He's just sitting there and it's just flowing out and he's dictating it to his scribe. And so it's just like this revelation that is like, I mean, it's not verbatim of Genesis, right? Because there are significant changes, but
Adam
it
gets
follows
baptized.
Genesis very well. And so like, is Joseph Smith, like people that are such hard critics, is he just memorizing all of them and then changing little things? Like what's
Memorized
happening?
and messed up when he's writing
He
it
just
out.
has so like the
amazing.
Pearl Great Price is absolutely amazing, dude. This is
go to
cool.
the
Oh, it's got the facsimiles. That's cool.
Oh my gosh.
That's really cool.
And so have you gone through and like read all of these books, or
Not the really rare ones.
because you have a
no.
lot of books?
Yeah, a lot of them. Nice thing, not a lot of them in the public domain. People republish. You can find copies of these other ones digitally. So, yeah, I try. Other than the first edition that I got, I read that one. But most of them, I try to,
Yeah, that you keep them.
I don't want to ruin
safe.
it.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
building, as you know, we're building a building to put them under glass, so they'll be even more protected. The
Okay,
boxes
cool.
help, but
Are you gonna put all like the Latter-day Saint books like in their own section?
Yeah.
Like, is it gonna be a different building or is it
it's
gonna
the
be
same building, yeah. And
Uh-huh.
you walk through. There's a doorway you walk through, and then you go through, and then have all the
Cool.
church LDS stuff. Yeah,
That's
we'll go
epic,
from
man.
there. It'll be really cool.
That's
So,
cool. Okay, so Pearl of Great Price.
Okay, some other cool things. You probably heard this book, The Doctrine and Covenants. This is the first edition.
Okay.
This one is really good quality. The cover's not an original cover, so I'm trying to eventually I'm going to upgrade this to one that does have an original cover, but they're really hard to come by. They're
Yeah.
super rare. But this one, other than the cover, is a flawless copy.
Okay, cool. And Doctrine and Covenants. So this is published. I mean, because it's not Book of Commandments, right? So
1835.
1835.
I really got to learn. Do you even know what number that is? LXXXIX.
Oh, the L's throwing me off.
50.
I know the X's and the I's, but the L's.
L is a 50, so that's 89. Section 89.
There you go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a good. Is it?
No, it's not.
Is
It
L
will-
not 50?
Well, I guess was the Word of Wisdom section 89?
They were all
the
different
original?
order
It
for
was all
sure. Yeah,
different
different order
order,
back
yeah.
then for sure.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Section 101 is
So does this have
Revelation.
So does this one have lectures of faith in there?
Yes.
Oh, it does. Where is that in the beginning? Or
Yeah.
it's at the beginning.
It starts the lectures in faith.
Oh yeah, there they are.
Question answer, dude.
Oh, it's question answer side of things.
Oh my gosh, dude.
That's so cool. Dude, interesting. That's wild. How many do you know? Have any idea how many of these were printed?
I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So cool. So cool.
So when I first started collecting these, first I got the Book of Mormon, then I needed the Pearl Great Price, and started trying to get all the things. They got Doctrine and Covenants, and then I asked John Hychek. I think a lot of people know him. I was like I want to get a Book of Commandments someday. He's like, not possible. He's like, if you see a Book of Commandments once in your life, you'll be lucky. It's like they're just not possible. And so that, for me, I'm like very much like, okay, well, I'm a competitor. We got to figure out how to do it. So we started going and spent a lot of time. And 3 years ago, we found out a connection through the Community of Christ. They had a couple copies, and they're needing money
the Book
and stuff.
of Commandments, yeah.
And so I was able to buy a Book of Commandments.
So during the whole when they're with their Kirtland Temple stuff, you're like, I'll get in there, get something.
Get it, slide out, get some cheap before the church comes in. Not cheap. This is the most expensive thing I own, but
really.
So we had this box made for it, which I think a lot of people know the story, but if not, on the front there's these two sisters, the Rawlings sisters.
Yeah.
So the Book of Commandments, when they commissioned it, I think they said when they first commissioned it, they wanted to print 10,000 copies, and then they couldn't raise enough money. So eventually they raised enough, I think, for like 5,000. So they started printing them, and that's when the mobs came and destroyed the printing presses. And while they were destroying them, the papers were falling out the windows, and the Rawlins sisters, 14 and 16 year old, I think, grabbed the papers and hid in the cornfields to protect them. And then from that, and whatever they were able to rescue afterwards, I think they ended up printing 100 copies of the Book of Commandments. And today, I think there's less than 10. I might have that number off, but I think there's like 10 known copies. And like there's one in the Harvard Library, Stanford. I think there's only 2 in private hands, if I'm right. So this is one of maybe 3. And so this is the Book of Commandments. So this is the craziest thing I got, and it's so tiny.
Oh my gosh!
You actually see it.
Don't try to open it, bro.
Now,
just keep it closed.
There's a really cool story about this one, and Mark Hoffman. So this actual copy, and it's funny, I actually heard Community of Christ, one of the lead guys there, telling the story online and about this book, and then I referenced it as true. So he, so the person who owned this was one of, there's only one name inside of it, Henry Stiggins or Stellan, something like that. So he was a companion of one of Joseph Smith's kids, I think, on a mission. And then when the church split, he stayed with the reorganized church and became the recorder, I believe, for them.
Yeah.
And this copy went into their vaults, and it stayed there all the way until Mark Hoffman wrote the succession letter. And he was trying to go to the reorganized LDS church to sell it.
Yeah.
And they had a deal where they were going to do it, and then Mark Hoffman then played that against the church. So he ended up going and sold it to Gordon B. Hinckley instead
For more money.
And it's like, sorry. And so when Gordon B. Hinckley found out about it, he's like, it's not fair. So he's like, we'll give it to you. And he's like, we don't give it to you, we'll trade you, because that's what Hoffman wanted this in exchange for. So this left the vaults, went to Gordon B. Hinckley, and they switched the letter, and this was in the church vaults until they found out it was forgery, and then they switched it back, and it sat in the vaults until I bought it last year.
Really? That's crazy. And it's all
cool.
like, this is the original cover?
So back when they first printed, there were no covers on them. And
Okay.
So each of the 9 copies have a different cover because people had to put the covers on posts later.
So there's only 9 copies that exist?
I believe 9 or 10. I have a book that has them all documented where they're at. That's pretty cool.
See, someone else didn't know Roman numerals because they wrote 2 above the
Above the eye.
There we go. It's probably Gordon B. Hinckley.
He's like,
dude,
He's like, I don't know.
we need to translate this to English, bro.
Man, it's really cool looking at these and knowing a revelation given to Joseph in Harmony, Pennsylvania, July 1828, and knowing that this was published in April 6th or in 1833. So it's just like within 5 years. Like, it's just crazy, man. So what can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Book of Commandments? When did it go from Book of Commandments to the Doctrine and Covenants?
Good question. How many years later was it? Because this was published 1833 and the Doctrine and Covenants 2 years later.
Okay, 2 years later, yeah. Huh. That's wild.
Whoa, this is interesting. A Book of Commandments for the government of the Church of Christ, organized according to law on the 6th of April, 1830. For the government of the Church of Christ.
That's cool.
It's really interesting. Oh my gosh. So who's the other one that has it private?
Another guy who was trying to sell it to me, and I'm not sure where it's at now.
Yeah.
Long story. I was going to buy that one first, and he shifted the offer after he
Saw that this was coming. Yeah.
So it worked better for me. This copy's the cool. It's got the best story.
It's got the best story. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Which is really cool. So in the Mormon collecting world, this is like the hardest thing to get. It's like the gem.
That's the Ark of the Covenant. That's the Holy Grail.
Holy Grail. So that's the most.
So what'd you say to John Hijack after?
Well, it was funny because I told John I got it. He's like, what? He's like, that's not possible. And then I was like, yeah, we bought it through the Community of Christ. He's like, I didn't realize they were selling that. He's like, in their backyard. He's like, I had no idea it was even up for sale. And so, anyway, so it's kind of cool. So that's the most rare. And then the second most rare LDS book to get is actually Emma Smith, the hymnal Emma Smith put together.
Okay.
I think there's only 3 or 4 known copies. There's actually less than this, but this is valued the highest. And so this right here is an original Emma Smith hymnal.
Oh, that's really cool, actually.
And this one's cool because whoever owned this one made their own slipcover for it. So if you look at this inside, it's like they made it to protect it themselves, which is really fascinating. And then it's got all the hymns in there. So
yeah, the slip cover right here, Brando, if you can get it. So 3 or 4 copies of that.
Yeah, the hymnals now I'm starting. I have the first edition, the second edition, and now I'm going down the rabbit hole trying to collect all the hymnal editions, which.
Are there that
really
many?
Hard. There's a lot, and they're really hard. Some of them there's only one known copy on the world. So it's like to get a complete hymnal collection, probably taking me the rest of my life to be able to get. But that's the next.
How many of
this one's cool.
How many of the hymns that we have in here are still in our?
There's a lot of carryover, but it's interesting because again, there's no music in there, right? So they would just they would have a folk tune like, "Hey, play this, whatever," and then turn the page, whatever, and they'd sing it.
And they'd sing it to the folk tune, whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's
so
pretty cool. Wow,
It
interesting. It has very like on my mission, you would get like prayer books, like Hungarian prayer books, like Catholic prayer books that were like that. You know what I mean? It was just kind of a loose compilation of poems and prayers and things of that nature. Kind of has that same vibe a little bit. That's cool. Nice.
Gosh, that's so special.
So cool. Usually the women want to see that and they freak out. They're like, "Oh, it's so cool."
Yeah.
And lastly, I got to show you guys. This one's not a book, but it's the most. There's only 2 of these in the world. So this is the most rare thing I own right now, and it's the original Elders Journals.
Elders Journals.
And so it was 1837 in Kirtland. The elders' missions to go out and they'd write. It's kind of like the Ensign? What do they call it nowadays?
Yeah, it was like the first church magazine for elders.
And so it's kind of cool. There's 4 issues in here. And what's cool when you look at it, it's like like Wilford Woodruff, like writing his report from his mission, and then you flip it over and it's like.
So were these from missionaries to the church?
Yeah, Heber Kimball. So they're like. Yeah, they were letters and then published, and they were publishing it out to all the members. And so
to know how the missionary
cool
work
when you think
was
about
doing.
Like all these people that we know nowadays. It's like, oh, when they were a missionary, this is what Sidney Rigdon wrote, and this is what all the things.
Gosh.
You guys know the blue Joseph Smith book where it's got the Q&A section where it's like the coolest thing. So that was originally published in here in one of them, where people asked him all the questions. I can't remember which. Erastus. Anyway, one of these has those original questions from it that ended up getting republished over there.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know anything about this.
Oh, here's the questions. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So like, do Mormons believe in the Bible? If we do, then we are the only people under heaven that does. For there are none other religious sects of the day that do. Question number 2: where do you differ from other sects? Because I answer, we believe in the Bible, and all other sects profess to believe their interpretation of the Bible and their creeds. And like,
he's just going hard.
I love Joseph
Their
Smith. So like, when he
creeds.
reads, I'm like, this guy's the best.
Yeah.
He just like attacks all the things head on. And, like,
Yeah.
He is the man. So this is kind of fun. One of my next set of collections, start collecting all the early journals from back in the day because they're really hard. They're more rare than the books because people didn't throw books away back then. Nowadays, people throw books away. Back then, people didn't throw books away, but journals and newspapers, a lot of times they would.
throw
They're
away.
hard to
Yeah.
find. When you do find them, they're just like the coolest thing
Man,
ever.
that's so cool, man.
So there's some of the fun stuff.
Thank you for
And that
sharing
was just some of it, guys. Like he has a first edition Book of Mormon of every language ever that's been published. Like,
Yeah, he has
so
some
many cool
controversial stuff that we can't talk about, but soon.
It was awesome.
Soon,
though.
one day, it's awesome. So real quick, one thing that we want to talk to you about is like, you're so big in the public eye. Like you're working with like some of the biggest names on the internet in the world. And one thing you don't do is at all hide your candle under a bushel. Like you're very open about your faith on your social media to your 1 million followers. And what have you learned about living your faith while being around so many people that don't believe the same as you?
Yeah.
Like, can you kind of tell us a little bit about that experience?
I know it's interesting because we'll do our events. In our events, we've got Jewish people, Muslims, atheists, Christians, every flavor of Christians. So it's like it's a weird line to balance because, it's like I'm called to serve these people and to help them in this area of their life, but also I'm called to like share my testimony and share things. And there's that weird, kind of thing. And I don't know, when I first got started in this business, it was hard because I didn't know how to do that or what to do or if it was even appropriate to do it. Cause like, I'm a little kid stepping in this business world and everyone seemed very professional. I'm just like hanging out.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I started going to these events and got to meet these amazing people. And then nights they'd all go to the bars, they'd all hang out. And I was like, I can't go participate in that. But I was like, that's where all the networking is happening, where people like everything good's happening there. So I remember the first time I was nervous. I'm like, I don't want to go to the bar, but also like, this is half of the value of the event is
where I can connect with them. Yeah.
So I go to the bar and the first thing the bartender or whatever comes up like, you need a drink? And I was just like, do you guys serve milk?
No, you didn't. You actually asked for milk, not even water.
Yeah. Water.
But water, you might think it's a Zima or whatever. I was like, I need something so that nobody thinks it's not. Yeah.
It's not.
And the guy was
milk.
like, you want milk? And he's like, well, we have, I think it was like milk they mixed into coffee or something. He's like, I can pour you a cup of that. I'm like, that'd be awesome. Yeah. So I had this cup and I would walk around and everybody would come up and they're like, what are you drinking? I'm like, milk. They're like, why are you drinking milk? I'm like, well, I'm a Mormon, so we don't drink. So I'm just drinking milk. And that opened up so many people were like, that is so cool.
Curious.
And I was weird because I thought they were going to be like, oh, you're weird. And they were just like, that's so weird. It's like, Mormons don't drink? I'm like, yeah, we don't. Like, what else don't you do? And they just opened up these conversations. And I started building like friendships with these people and nobody really judged me. I was waiting for them to judge me or whatever, but it was the opposite where they're like, that's so weird. And that's so cool that you actually stick with that. And I was like, huh. So that was kind of interesting. And then, so I got known as the guy who would go to the bar and have milk every time because I was like, that worked the first time. I'm just gonna hold that every single time.
And there's something to be said about just being confident in your beliefs. Like people feel uncomfortable when you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you can confidently, have conversations about any subject and you're confident in yourself, they're gonna feel confident and not feel super weird about it.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that's hard is a lot of people, and in our faith especially, but in all faiths, is that when people share their religion, typically it's like they're sharing it, but they're trying to defend it while they're sharing it, or they're trying to prove you're wrong. And it's like that's usually the way that people attack stuff. And I had a really good coach who she's a relationship coach, and she in her book she talks about this concept. She calls it demand relationship. And she's like, if you look at the way the world's run over time, it's based on demand relationship where in every relationship, there's a power player and there's somebody else. And so demand relationships work all throughout time until like, especially in thinking about couples, like there's a man, there's a woman, the man's in the control. He tells what to, that's how society was for thousands of years until divorce happened. As soon as like divorce became legal and then someone could break, then this demand relationship doesn't work. Cause it's like the demand happens, the person's like it, they break away and then they get divorced. And that's why when divorce became a thing, so much epidemic where this like power play, which is how people did a relationship forever, just fell apart. And it's interesting because I look at almost every religious conversation, it's that people are trying to like demand that you believe what I believe, what I do. Like that's the thing. And when you have demand versus like you're trying to be the power player, like the person, like you can't change the person.
They put up their walls and then yeah.
And so when I'm talking to Stacy, my coach on this, and I was like, but how do I help people change? Because I'm thinking about my kids. Like I want my kids to do the right thing. I want the people I love to do the right thing. And she's like, sweetie, first off, you can't change people. So quit trying to change them. And she's like, the only way you're gonna have a shot at changing someone is number one, is you have to love that person unconditionally.
Yeah.
She's like, that's the number one step. Say you have to love them unconditionally. And then what happens is what you gotta do in your life is if you believe this is the true way, you need to live that 100% and show that this makes you happy and all sorts of stuff. And she's like, when you do that, you set an example. And then what happens is in that person's life, in the best example is people leaving the church, right? It's like you have a family member, someone who leaves the church, and what do we do? Like trying to convince them, we're sending them conference talks, we're trying to do all sorts, and like we're just like bugging about this thing, and we're trying to tell them follow us in the church because it's the greatest thing in the world. But then most of those people are miserable because there's so much pain, right? Versus what Stacy said is like instead, what you want to do is you want to live the thing you believe and become an example, and then love the person unconditionally. And so what's going to happen is over time in that life, in that person's life, at some point they're going to struggle. They're going to go through something. They're going to hit a point of threshold where they're like, this is too much. I can't handle it. And then when they're at that spot and they're looking for help, they're looking back and like all the people who are judging him, who are demanding him, who's telling him all sorts of stuff, none of those people they're not going to call those people. The only person they're going to call is the person who, number one, is living the life they actually want. Like, man, so-and-so actually has the life I want. And they love me unconditionally the whole time. Like, that's the only time you're gonna get the call from your kid, from your spouse, from your friend who falls away. And so like, when I learned that, I was like, okay, my job with my faith is not to come and be like, I'm right, you're wrong. My job is to live the principles of it. And if they actually make me happy and successful and like what I want to be, like, I'm just going to be me then. And people have it. And then I'm going to share why I'm excited, but I'm not going to demand anything. I'm not going to try to force you. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to live the life. And by doing that, people will see that and be like, wow, I want that in my life. What is it? And from that, we've had tons of people in my community who've gotten baptized who are just like, I don't know what it is, but you seem really happy. I'm not. What are you doing? You know? And it's like, oh, I'm a Mormon. This is my favorite book. And like, it opens up conversations and doors versus almost everybody else I see online is so divisive, and they're trying to demand you to believe what they believe and stuff like that. It's like, that's not how actual change and persuasion happens.
For sure. And it reminds me of the scripture that's talking, because what you're talking about right here is influence. How do you influence people to be curious about the gospel, to make covenants when you're talking about your children? How do you influence your children to want to make covenants and to, build a relationship with Christ? And DNC 121 freaking nails it. He says, no power or influence can or ought to be maintained by virtue of the priesthood, only by persuasion, by long-suffering, by gentleness and meekness, and by love unfeigned, by kindness and pure knowledge, which shall greatly enlarge the soul without hypocrisy and without guile. And it's just like, that's what it comes down to, is like, do you love people unfeigned? Like you were talking about, like this unconditional love first. And people, one thing that I have learned, and I'm still learning, and I know it, but I'm still putting it into practice better, right? Is people don't want answers to questions that they don't have. And a lot of times we're so excited about sharing answers to questions that we had and we found the answers to. But if they're not asking for advice, they don't want it. You know what I mean? And so by being a person that they see as, as successful, as happy, as filled with peace and confidence, when they see that and they're in a moment where they're questioning, are you someone that they want to ask those questions to? And then you can stand ready with those answers.
Well, think about that was Christ's plan. That's what he did, right? Look at, and Satan's plan is demand a relationship. I will come and force people to be good, right? Where Christ is like, I'll just be a really good example, and I'm going to live my life and live the principles, and people notice. And if I seem like, come follow me. Come follow me. And then people will come. They'll choose to come. But he wasn't trying to persuade or convince or do anything. He's like, let me live the standard, and then my sheep will hear my voice and they will follow me, because like, this is the standard I set.
For sure.
And so for me, like when I look at like, how do I share the gospel in what I do? It's like, it's part of everything, right? So, and I leave breadcrumbs where people can pick up. Like even in my second book, Expert Secrets, I had this thing about like writing about like setting a standard, and I was like, I have a really good story about this from Captain Moroni. So I have a whole like page and a half where I'm telling this story about Captain Moroni and all that. And so it's funny in my events when I talk about this ancient guy in ancient America who's a commander, I tell the story. All the Mormons are just like
whoa, no way.
And then other people are like, what book is that? Like, I want to read that story. I'm like, oh, it's a really good book.
It's a really good book, bro.
Let me show you where it's at.
So I'm curious, before you were showing us these really old books that you have from a guy that you admire a lot, Napoleon Hill, and he published that book, Laws of Success. I'm curious, how many crossovers have you seen from the gospel, the restored gospel, and Laws of Success?
Yeah, such a good question. It's interesting because, and this is a controversial topic if you look out like in the evangelical world, because so when Napoleon Hill and those guys, there was a movement, they called it the New Thought movement. And it was like all these people, and they did not know what, like it was pre-science and stuff like that, right? So like they're just like learning, if I think about something, I can change my life. I can think, I can grow rich.
This idea of like manifesting and stuff has been kind of bastardized into like this godless enterprise, right? And
but I think it was like them seeking truth, and then it's like, and then they bumped into like Christianity, and there was this crossover. And so it's funny because like a lot of people I follow who are Christian teachers and stuff, they're like, oh, everything you thought was evil, it's bad. And I'm like, I mean, it's just like everything that we learn, right? We're learning line upon line, precept upon precept. Like they were learning things that they were discovering stuff. And like when you look at it through the lens of the gospel, yeah, there's stuff that's not right, but there's so much that's just like this perfect fit on top of it. And so for me, it's like, what's the 13th article of faith, right? Anything virtuous, lovely, good report, praiseworthy, we seek after these things. And there's stuff in these books that I study that I find that they're virtuous, lovely, good report, praiseworthy. And so I'm looking for those things. And then, but I also am smart to look at that through the lens of like, does this sync with actual truth? Like not the Russell truth. Like, what is the actual truth? I did a thing the other day talking to our audience because they're like, how do I become successful? I'm like, if you want to be successful in any area of life, you find the person who's already successful and you have to think like them. People think like, I'm gonna be me, but I'm gonna like try to convince that person, you know, whatever. I'm like, if you want to be a millionaire, you got to learn how to, like, you have to break the beliefs you have now and the thoughts you have now are not like, if you had the right beliefs, you'd already be a millionaire, but you don't. So you have to break those and rebuild and find out, what does that person believe? I think the same thing's true with God. Like, if you want to like receive, you know, if you want exaltation, whatever you want to call it, your job is not try to convince God of like what you believe, like what your truth is. It's like, no, like, what is the truth? Like, I don't care what it is. I got to find out from God, like, what is the actual truth? And then that becomes the sync that everything then is based on, right? Versus like, well, this is what I think. And it's like, no, like, stop thinking what you, like, just go to the source and find out from the person or from God, like the person you're trying to become, like, what is the actual truth? And then, because our brains are all wrapped with the truth that we've been flooded for however long we've been here, you know?
Yeah. I wanted to ask you as well, because we were talking with Greg Mattson the other day at lunch, and he was telling us about a few business opportunities that he got snubbed by because people told him to his face that he wasn't a Christian and that, you know, they didn't want to work with anyone that didn't worship Jesus. And so I'm curious, have you had any experiences on the other side where people didn't have a good reaction? Or
Yeah, I got two stories. One is, so I wrestled at BYU my freshman year, and Coach Schultz, obviously he was a member at the time, and everyone else was members. And anyway, there's a group called Athletics in Action. And I don't know if it's just a wrestling thing or every sport, but they're like a Christian base, and so they have a team, and they go and they proselyte and stuff. And so Coach Schultz was like, "Hey, I've got a whole bunch of guys who love Jesus. You should partner with them." And the guy's like, "No, we can't." Like, why not? Like, they all love Jesus. They'll work for free. Like, they already know, they knocked on doors. They're good. And the guy's like, "Yeah, we just we don't work with cults." And Coach Schultz was so confused. He's like, "Cults? What are you talking about?" I was like, "Well, you guys are a cult." And Coach Schultz, he's so funny. He was like, because BYU's got this huge football team. He's like, "I've never heard of a cult that had their own football team before."
That's pretty cool.
It was like the coolest comeback. I was like, that was amazing. So that was the first thing. But,
That's hilarious.
So this is the other side of it. So again, I've been doing this now. You know, ClickFunnels launched 11 years ago. So we've been doing events and stuff like that. And every year the events get bigger and bigger. And so for a long time, I was more silent, like sharing stuff. I'd share stuff, but it wasn't so like, not that I'm in your face like preaching, but just And I remember it was during COVID time, right after COVID, and we did an event, and there's a guy who speaks a lot of our events. His name's Garrett White. At one time he was a member. He served a mission, but he's kind of so I have him speak our events because he's awesome. But usually half the audience half loves him, half's offended every single time. Usually because he's very hardcore. And this time he showed up and he had just gotten rebaptized in some other church. And so he came up and he was dressed in white and they were singing and they were like all sorts of stuff. And I didn't know what he was gonna do at the event. It kind of caught me off guard, but
yeah.
And again, half people were offended, half led. But when all said and done, it was interesting because I came backstage afterwards and he was like, "How was that?" I'm like, "Well, you divide the audience again like normal, but I think that it's fun." And then he hit me on the chest. You know, Garrett's a big guy. He hit me on the chest. And he's like, "There's more with us than against us." And then he kind of walked away, and I was like, "Huh." And that like rang in my head of just like, and so I think about this like when I share stuff on social, anything that's related to God or faith or anything, you see in the comments, there's always people that are just like, "Oh, you're talking about God? I'm out." And like, there's always, I don't know, and again, you have a million following of 1.5 million. There's 100 angry people with every post, no matter what you post, right? And so like, I'm out. I can't believe you talked about God. Can't believe, or, "Oh, you talk about Jesus. What about Muhammad?" Like, it's always stuff, right?
Yeah.
But they're always the loudest ones. And then what's interesting is the more I share, the more people are like, "I'm so grateful you shared that. I'm sorry." And then people come back like, "I was always scared to talk about my belief, my faith, and like because you do it, like I'm doing it now." And they're showing me their events where they're sharing their faith and they're sharing things, and that thing that resonates in my head is like, there's more with us than against us. And so it's like I think sometimes because the loud noise comes back of like, that you hear the people shouting back that you freak out like, oh, I'm walking away, versus like understand like it's the minority that are coming back and the majority are with us.
Yeah.
And they're scared and they're waiting for someone and waiting for people to stand up and be willing to do
confident.
it. And then it gives them the voice and the confidence to do it as well. And so I think for us, it's just like, I'm at a point in my career, in my life where it's like, I'm not concerned about so many things. It doesn't matter anymore. So I'm just going to be me 100% all the time. And if people love me, cool. If they hate me, cool. Like it doesn't matter. I share this with my entrepreneurs sometimes, because a lot of people get scared to share anything. Like, well, people are going to be mad at me. I'm like, people always get mad at you. But I was like, there's a in the New Testament, Christ talks about this, right? He talks about anything about Christ. Like most people hate him. They crucified him. Like you're not going to be popular with whatever your opinion is. But what Christ said, he said that my sheep will hear my voice. Right? So he's gonna stand out there, be himself unapologetically, and his sheep will hear his voice, and he'll gather them together, and then he can serve those people. And I think it's true. Like that was something Christ said, but I think it's an eternal truth for everybody. Like every single one of us has a voice, right? And we put it out there, and there are a lot of people that hate me. If you Google me and go like 6-7 pages down, a lot of people hate me down there. We try to push them down, but there's a lot of people who don't like Russell for a lot of reasons. He talks too fast, talks too slow, he talks about God too much. Like there's a million reasons why someone hates Russell, and that's okay. Because those are not my sheep. Those are not my people. Like my people hear my voice, and then I can gather them and I can serve them. I've been called to serve this group of audience.
To serve them.
Like same thing for you guys. Like I look at, I think the reason why I resonate with you guys when I first start your podcast, you're coming out here, you're out there, you're aggressive. The first one I saw, you guys are fighting the CS letter. I was like, I love these guys. They're out there. And I'm sure you guys got so much hate and everything, but it's just like, it doesn't matter. Those people that hate you aren't your sheep. Like there are people who I know, like myself included, like my testimony has grown dramatically because of what you guys are willing to put out there.
Thank you.
And it's like, so I'm your sheep, right? And like there's other people. And so like that's who we're speaking to, is to our sheep. And when you understand that, it's like you're always going to offend the majority, right?
Yeah.
Christ offended the majority. He's the greatest of us all. Like how are we not supposed to be doing that as well? But it's like when you can own that and realize this is the eternal principle that my sheep will hear my voice, and it's true for each of us. It's like, hey, find your voice and put it out there, and then wait for your sheep to come. Be a shepherd. Yeah. And then you can actually serve those people. And again, I share this with my entrepreneurs, but I think it's true in all areas of life. Each of us has been given gifts and talents and trials and problems and everything that's turned us to who we are today. And it's like, and the reason why we went through those things is because all of us are called to serve. Like there's a group of people that each of us are uniquely created to change that person's life because of the things you went through, right? And so it's like when you realize that like, man, everything I went through to get to this point in my life was so that I could help people who are 5 years behind me. And what can I publish? What can I create? What can I do out there to help those people who were me 5 years ago who were struggling? Because I already went through that. I understand those things. And so like when you do that, like I think every person on this planet has been called by God to serve the people who are them 5 years ago. So it's like being willing to share that, and your sheep will hear your voice. They'll come to you, and then you can change their life.
That's amazing. So your business has done over $1 billion in sales. You've helped your clients do over $12 billion in sales. In every single worldly metric, you are winning and you are successful. Yet there's one thing that seems to matter most to you, and it's not the money, it's not the fame, it's the Book of Mormon. Why do you believe in the Book of Mormon?
Yeah. I have a very strong testimony of Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, and it started 25 years ago on my mission, where a lot of people start. And I remember going to my mission, my dad told me his conversion story. He's like, I was at the MTC and I prayed and I got the answer. So I was like, okay, I'll just wait till the MTC, I'll be fine. I got the MTC and I started praying about it and nothing happened. I was like, oh. And then they put you in the bus to drive to the airport, fly you to New Jersey. And I'm like, oh no. And then I'm knocking doors, and so every night I'm praying and I'm like, nothing's happening, nothing's showing up. And I'm just like, oh no, what am I, and I'm scared to death. I'm trying to like talk to people about this thing that I understand kind of, but I don't really know what it is. And it was in that weird, scary spot, and I didn't know what to do. And I realized that I think the reason why I wasn't getting answers because I wasn't ready yet. And I was like, I need to repent of everything I've ever done in the past to be able to be worthy to receive an answer. I hadn't thought about that. Like I hadn't thought about it, but so I spent the next couple months on my mission just like thinking through stuff and trying to repent and trying to try to become good with God. I was like, if I want him to talk to me, like I got to get in a space where I'm worthy of that. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. And about 7 months into my mission, we had a zone conference. Elder Franco was our zone leader, and I remember he asked me ahead of time. He's like, he's like, will you do a training on the Book of Mormon? And he gave me some quotes from Bruce Summer Conkey, like the best McConkie quotes of all time, like about the Book of Mormon. And I read, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. So I did this talk, and in the talk from McConkie, like he's ruthless. He's like the Book of Mormon is either from heaven or from hell. There's no, like it's not like this is a nice book. It's either he said this is either spawned from the infernal realms of Satan or it's from God, and there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
And so like I'm teaching that stuff, and so I teach that, and it's really fun because I love McConkie. And then he gets done afterwards, and then Elder Franco comes back up. He's like, to our zone. He's like, well, you heard it from Elder Brunson. We're either working for Satan or for God, and we should probably find out who it is right now. He's like, let's kneel down and pray together. And I was so scared because I had prayed 1,000 times with no answer. And I was like, what if I don't get an answer again? Like I was just like at that spot where I was like nervous and afraid and everything. And we kneeled down, and I remember Elder Brager, who said the prayer, and first question he asked, like, Heavenly Father, we're here as your servants. We believe the Book of Mormon is true, but we need to know from you if it's true. Is the Book of Mormon true? And he waited. And it was the first time in my life that I had like felt the Spirit like that. I never felt that before. It was just like this rush. And I was like, whoa. And then his next question was like, is Joseph Smith a true prophet? And it was like, whoo, twice. And I was just like, okay, I'm in 100% for the rest of my life. Like you don't have to tell me something twice. And so for me, that was it. And so from that point forward, I was just like, okay, I'm a big believer, like I talked about earlier, like finding what God believes and then just sticking to that. So for me, it's like that was the first time in my life I'd gotten a direct answer from God. Second time was when I found my wife and he told me to marry her. Like those are very specific times where I was like that I felt something I'd never felt before, right? And so for me, it's like, even today, I look at there's all sorts of chaos, and especially YouTube world that you guys are fighting in. I love watching his battle, and there's so much evil and divisiveness and the Antichrist, and they're all fighting everything. And it's just like amongst all of that, right? And I see it all, everyone else says, and it's just like the thing that keeps me solid. It's just like, I know beyond anything that I know in this world is that Joseph is a prophet and the Book of Mormon is true. And so that is like for me, that is like the anchor. That's the thing that cannot shift. I did a talk in church a while ago about testimony, and I remember in my 9th grade math class, I had this math teacher named Mr. Turner, and he was teaching Euclidean geometry. And he's like, this is geometry, and showing all this stuff. He's like, it's all based on 3 things you can't prove. You can't prove a point, a line, or a plane. He's like, those are unprovable things. But if you have those, all of geometry works. And I was like, oh my gosh, the same thing for us. Like, I can't prove to you that the Book of Mormon is true. I cannot prove Joseph Smith is true. I cannot prove, I can't prove these things. These are, he called them the givens. These are 3 givens in math. I was like, these are the 3 givens in my faith. And I can't prove these. I have to be told, I have to be given the 3 givens. And then based on it, everything beautiful was built from it. And so for me, it's like, those are the 3 things. Joseph Smith, the Book of Mormon, restoration, like I'm 100% in forever. And it's true. And it's exciting. And then one of the real reason why I bought the very first edition Book of Mormon I bought was because I was thinking about it in my house. Like in my house at the time, like probably most Mormon people's houses, we had 50 different Book of Mormons, like in every shelf and every crack and every, and like we weren't reading them and we didn't care about them. And I was like, this is not special to us. It's so normal, it's so commonplace. And I was like, I'm going to invest this money because it'll make it special to me again. And if it's special to me again, then it'll matter. And so that's why I bought the first one. That's why I read the part of the P. Pratt thing. I want to make this special. And then I bought them more. And then and for me, it's the reason why I'm collecting these books. I want this to be special for me. I don't want it to be to ordinary. I want it to be
commonplace.
I want this to be as special as it is because it is. It's the most amazing thing in the world. As you guys know, the Book of Mormon, I mean, I told you guys that I bought 18,000 books in the last 3 years, and the most important one's the Book of Mormon. Of all of them, it's the key to the keystone. It's the keystone, and the key to it's everything. So anyway, that's my testimony. And
wow, this has been fascinating.
Thank you so much,
fascinating, dude. Thank you so much for showing us these books, and it's really cool to see how much passion you have. It's amazing. And so you said you're hoping to start your own LDS type channel and stuff like that.
For those who know anything about me, my books are .com secrets, expert secrets, traffic secrets. Every one of my products is something secrets. And so we're launching Book of Mormon secrets. And so I'm going to go deep into the pages and the old books and show the cool stuff and talk about it, and hopefully be another voice for good out there in the sea of stuff. And so you guys inspired me a lot, and I've wanted to do it for a long time. I've kind of fought against it back and forth, and But I'm at the point now where it's just like it's too important, too much fun, and so it's exciting.
That's awesome,
Cool.
man. Well, we're excited.
Hopefully, we'll be able to do your live book launch event for Plain Precious Publishing
Yeah, there
in a
you
couple
go.
of years.
Let's do it.
see.
Let's do it. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone who's watching. Hopefully it's up right now. Book of Mormon Secrets. Go subscribe to it. It might not have an episode on there.
If you go
but
to bookofmormonsecrets.com, I'll link to it. Yeah, so it'll be
perfect.
all
Go
from
there. And until next time, stay curious and hungry.